Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you for joining today. So today is the occasion of Bhishma Astami, and we're going to try to have a little look at the life and times of this amazing personality, very colorful personality in the Mahabharata. And Bhishma Astami means the day that he left for the spiritual world. So in front of Krishna, after lying on the bed of arrows for many months, I think. So very interesting personality. So let's have a look at his life. How come what did he do in his previous life? He was actually one of the 8 Vasus. Vasus are Devatas. They conspired to steal Vashishta's Surabhi Gomata. It was a very important Gomata. And Vashisht found out, actually the main conspirator was, if you like, Bhishma as one of the Vasus. And the others were just assisting, didn't really have much heavy intent to steal. So anyway, Vashisht found out and he cursed them to be born on earth. And the Vasus were being quite powerful. They prayed to Mother Ganga, please help. We've been put into this predicament. We don't want to stay in earth so much. So can you assist us? And 7 of them went back to the heavenly planets quickly. But the 8th one, because he was the main culprit in trying to steal this cow, Gomata, he had to suffer a long life on earth. And he is known as Bhishma. So, very interesting personality. Now, what happened was King Shantanu, forefathers of the Pandavas, he saw Karuna Devi one time by the river, and he fell in love with her. And she also admired him, liked him, and he proposed, and she accepted on the condition that he does not question her at all. And the king was happy with that condition. Didn't think beyond that she would do anything that would he would question, because he loved her so much. And that's why love is blind, isn't it? So anyway, so they married. She became his queen, and they had children, one after the other. She would drown. As soon as they were born, she would drown them. And this was part of the grace of Ganga Mata, because she didn't want the Vasus to suffer. So the first 7 were drowned, and the king Shantanu would just be amazed. What's going on? Why is my wife doing this to every child? He didn't say a word, because he kept his word that he wouldn't question her. And the minute she would question her, she'd be gone. So his love for her was so great. He didn't question the death of the first 7 children. But the 8th child, he couldn't tolerate anymore. And he asked her to stop from drowning this child. And he questioned her, why are you doing this? 7 children have already been killed by you. Why are you doing this? So that time she revealed herself, and she told about the curse that the 8 Vasus had received, and the 8th one would have to endure a long life. And she told him that this is the 8th child. and we will name him as Devrat. And Ganga said, I will take him with me. I'm leaving you. I'm going to take him, however, to be trained by the best minds, the best trainers in this universe. And when he is ready, when he is fit to be returned to you, I will come back with him and leave him with you. But I am going. So King Shantanu suffered a great loss, not just the children, but his wife as well. Anyway, in time, before that, no, wait a second. Yes,
This is after.
this is after, yeah. So what happened? Bhishma was trained by Parshuram. Parshuram was one of his martial gurus. He was trained by Brihaspati. He had some amazing experiences in the heavenly planets. And he was extremely powerful personality. And one time, the waters of the Ganga stopped flowing. And King Shantanu was amazed. What's happened? And at that time, he met this warrior. And that was his son. And Ganga introduced him. This is your son. I have brought him back. He's been trained by the best. And he is your heir. So then later on, King Shantanu, he was one time on a hunting tour, and he came across a very beautiful lady called Satyavati, who was a fisherman's daughter. She was an extraordinary personality because one time before, Parasar Muni was on the same boat as she was taking him across the river. And it was the auspicious time for the Lord to appear. And she facilitated the appearance of the Lord. And that Lord is Srila Vyasadeva, the literal incarnation of the Lord. So she gave birth to him, thanks to Parasar Muni. And Parasar Muni also kept her dignity intact. And also he blessed her, because previously she was a fisherman's daughter, so she had the fishy smell, but he also gave her divine fragrance. So she was not just beautiful in appearance, but also in every other aspect. So when King Shantanu met her, he fell in love with Satyavati, and he asked her to marry him. But she said, I have to take permission from my father. You have to take permission from my father. So the king, Shantanu, he went to the fisherman's daughter's father, the fisherman himself, and asked for his daughter's hand in marriage. And the fisherman said, no problem, but you have to promise that only her children will own the throne. They will be the ones who have the rightful claim for the throne, no one else. And I know you have a son. And Shantanu Maharaj said, yes, I have a son. And he is the rightful owner of the throne. So I cannot fulfill your desire. And then the fisherman said, okay, so be it. You can't have my daughter. So Shantanu fell into great depression. When he went back to the kingdom, he just was not, his mind was not on it, on the kingdom, on the citizens. He was just very distracted. And everybody was very worried. The ministers were always wondering what's going on. And his son, Devrat, even was concerned. And he found out that the king had fell in love. One of the ministers told him that the king had fell in love with a lady called Satyavati, but the father demanded this and that. So Devrat, he was such an amazing son, such a devoted son. He went to the fisherman and he said, "Give your daughter to my father." And the fisherman said, "What about my condition?" He said, "No problem. Your condition will be fulfilled. Your daughter's children will have the throne of Hastinapur." "Ah," he said, "you're saying that now, but what if later on you have children? Is that right?"
Mm-hmm.
So Bhishma said, "No, there won't be any children. I promise you, there won't be any children. I give you my word." The fisherman said, "Not enough." So then Bhishma said, "Okay, I make a vow. I will never marry." And that was significant. That was, he sacrificed his happiness for the sake of his father. "I will never marry." For a Kshatriya to say that is practically impossible. It's never been heard before. A Kshatriya never takes a vow of sannyas. The women are his strength. Surprisingly, isn't it? The women are the strength of the Kshatriyas.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they marry sometimes more than one wife. So anyway, he made the vow. And then he made another vow, didn't he? Well, the fishermen say something else as well. The children of your children. No, somebody else. Anyway, he made another vow to counteract another condition of the fisherman, that he will always protect whoever is on the throne of Hastinapur. Those two vows. So first one, never marry. Second, I'll always be loyal to the throne. So your daughter's children will always be protected. Whew. So, and then when these vows were made, the devatas in the heavenly planets showered flowers on him and called him Bhishma. Bhishma means terrible vow. So this was very unique. Amazing, actually. Anyway, in due course of time, she had children. Satyavati, who was they? What were their names?
Vichitravirya, Chitrangat.
Yes, Vichitravirya.
Chitrangat.
Chitrangat. That's right. And unfortunately, neither of them had children. They were married to these three. Oh, sorry, Bhishma
Two.
one time, yeah, he kidnapped the princesses of Kashi, who were called Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika, for the two princes. And this was quite an event. He kidnapped them when in an arena of powerful warriors, the most powerful warriors on the land. And this person who had vowed never to marry kidnapped the brides. So actually it was a real shame for the warriors who were in attendance, because they couldn't counteract him. And he brought them back to the palace of Hastinapur, and he presented them to the queen as the brides of the two sons. And one of them, Amba, was it Amba? Oh yeah, it was Amba, wasn't it? Amba said to the Bhishma that, "What have you done? I've already given myself to another prince." So she was told to go back to whoever she had given her. Oh yeah, Salva. And Salva turned around and said to Amba when she went to see him that, "Who are you? You were kidnapped by Bhishma. I was humiliated. You should have, well, what can you do now? I can't accept you. You're somebody else's property." So Amba became very upset, and she went back to Hastinapur and counteracted Bhishma and said, "You have to marry me now because you kidnapped me. You took me away." from my beloved. Oh, Bhishma said, you should have told me. Well, you never gave us a chance. You kidnapped us. So you marry me. And Bhishma said, no, I'm not going to. I've made a vow. So she went away and she cursed. She said to him, I will be the cause of your death in this very life. Mark my words. And she was, ultimately. She came back as Shikandi, and she stood in front of Arjun when there was a duel between Arjun and Bhishma in the Mahabharata. Very interesting. So Amba became so upset, actually, before she left her body, she went to Parshuram and she told this injustice to Parshuram, that your disciple who kidnapped me is refusing to marry me. This is against the laws of Kshatriya. And Parshuram agreed with her and said, yes, I will teach Bhishma a lesson. So they had a fight, the guru and the disciple. And it was an incredible fight, which actually Bhishma won. He won the fight. He won the duel. He even beat his own guru. So we can see the prowess of this amazing personality. Then, yes, so going back, the two princes died childless. And Satyavati said to Bhishma, right, you have to give us a heir. And Bhishma said, no, I've taken a vow. I took a vow so that you could marry my father. So I'm not going to have children. I'm not going to get married. But there's no problem now, Satyavati said. I release you from the condition that my father made. No, you can't release me. It's your father's condition. And I took a vow. So I will not get married. He was very clear to Mother Satyavati. So usually the elders are not to be disobeyed. But in this case, Bhishma made a stand. I will protect my vow. So Satyavati then invoked the causeless mercy of Srila Vyasadeva, who was meditating in the forest and who appeared before her because she called upon him. And she put her dilemma to him and asked him, you have to now father children in the two princesses. And see the difference between Bhishma and Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva was an ascetic, right? He was a saint, sage. And yet he said, yes, mother, I will follow your command. Which one is right and which one is not so right? They're both right in one sense, Bhishma and Vyasadeva. But Vyasadeva was very accommodating. He listened to his mother, even though he had no interest in producing children. Anyway, he went before Ambika, who closed her eyes in fright because he looked, unkept, long hair, beard, probably didn't smell too good, didn't have a shower for a while because he was in meditation for years. Anyway, she was petrified. She closed her eyes. And the effect of that was that a son was born who was blind. His name was Dhritarashtra. And then the next queen, she became pale, very pale. So Pandu was born from Ambalika, who, because of his nature of paleness, was not considered healthy. So then the queen Satyavati, she pleaded with Vyasadeva, one more go. And she said to the princesses, come on, make an effort. This is a great sage. They were so petrified, they sent their maid. And the maid, she understood this is a great sage. She was very respectful to him. And from that union came Vidur, the wise, great Vidur, who's also known as the incarnation of Dharmraj. Yamraj. So in due course of time, I won't go into the Mahabharata because it'll take quite some time, but Dhritarashtra was born blind, so he couldn't become the king. Pandu was made the king. But unfortunately, one day, Pandu made a terrible mistake in the forest, and he accidentally shot a sage who was enjoying with his wife in one of the forms of an animal. And the sage cursed him, the way I'm going to die, you will also die if you ever have sex. So if you mate, you will die. So then now a dilemma, what to do? Pandu was married to Queen Kunti and Madri, but they couldn't have children. But Kunti Devi had a boon that was given to her before marriage by Durvasa Muni. Then the boon was that you could call upon a demigod to give you a child. And she tested that boon before marriage. She called the sun god who came. And she said, thank you for coming. I was just testing if this mantra works. Go away now. And Suryadev said, I can't go away. I have to give you a child. But I'm not married. Doesn't matter. I'm obliged to give you a child. So he gave her a child, kept her dignity intact. But she was petrified. She was a little girl. And she had this little boy who she actually put in a nice basket and floated him down the Ganga. Later, he was known as Karn. Anyway, Kunti Mata said to Pandu, I have a boon that's been granted to me. We can have children. I can call upon various demigods. Who would you like to call upon? So Pandu, being so intelligent, he called upon Dharmraj first, and Yudhishthir was born. Then he called upon Bhim, and Vayu and Bhim was born. And then he called upon Indra, and Arjun was born. And then finally, he asked for 2 more children. And Kunti Devi said, actually, Madri doesn't have any. So on behalf of Madri, I call upon Ashwini twins. So then Nakul and Sahdev came to be. So these were the Pandavas, very righteous and very religious, very devoted personalities appeared before them. On the other side, Dhritarashtra's Dharmapatni Gandhari gave birth to 100 children, headed by Duryodhan. And unfortunately, when Duryodhan was born, there were all sorts of inauspicious signs indicating that not such a nice person has come into the world. So the Pandavas were fatherless, and they only had one mother because Madri also decided to leave with Pandu. Because what happened was Pandu became attracted to Madri one time, and that attraction was fatal. He died because of the curse. So Kunti was left alone to bring up the Pandavas. Anyway, eventually they went back to the kingdom, and Bhishma was given charge of taking care of the Pandavas as well as the Kauravas, which is what he did. They were very devoted to each other, especially Arjun was favored by Bhishma very much because Arjun was such a phenomenal character. Many things happened. Bhishma was, he had a really hard life because he had to protect the throne, and the throne was occupied illegally by Dhritarashtra, who was only there as caretaker on behalf of Pandu. But when Pandu died, he should have really gone to his eldest son, Yudhishthir. But he upsurged the kingdom and he made Duryodhan the crown prince. And because Bhishma had made the vow, I will protect whoever is on the throne, he could not argue against the decisions made by Dhritarashtra. And one of probably the thing that destroyed the whole Kaurav clan was the insulting of the wife of the Pandavas, Draupadi, in open court. One time they had a gambling match, as we know, and when the Kshatriya is invited to gamble, he has no choice. Just like when he's invited to fight, he has no choice but to fight. So Yudhishthir, knowing that the gambling match was probably going to be heavily on the side of the Kauravas because of Shakuni, the uncle of Duryodhana, still he played the dice game and he lost everything. He lost his kingdom, he lost his wealth, he lost his brothers. Eventually, he even gambled his wife. And then Draupadi was brought into the court and heavily insulted by many of the sons of Dhritarashtra and also Karna. And at that time, that the insults were taking place of this incredibly saintly personality called Draupadi, but nobody protected her, including her husbands. They couldn't protect her because they'd lost her. But Bhishma, being the senior most personality in that court, failed also to protect her. The only protection came from Krishna, who supplied her an unlimited amount of sari to protect her dignity. So this is considered to be the one act that destroyed the whole clan. And at that time, perhaps things could have been done differently by the great Kshatriyas at that time. And that includes Drona and Kripacharya. They also are complicit in the insult that was thrown at Draupadi, because they were senior personality. They could have stopped the king, if not by argument, by force. Anyway. So eventually, but of course, if they had done that, there would be no Bhagavad Gita, because the Bhagavad Gita was sung on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where two opposing armies, the Kauravas and the Pandavas, were against each other. After much attempts at peaceful negotiations, everything failed. And it came to this, where two greatest armies were standing against each other. And just before the battle, Arjun requested Krishna, please take my chariot into the middle of the battle. I want to see who's come to fight. And of course, what Krishna always does, if you do ask him for assistance, he will take you to your greatest Achilles heel, to your biggest problem. He'll make you confront it. So Arjun was taken right in front of Bhishma. Behold the armies, Krishna says. This is what's in front of you. Behold Bhishma. And at that time, Arjun broke down due to weakness of heart. How can I fight these great warriors who are worthy of my worship? So this is what Krishna does. He'll bring you to the greatest problem you face. He will come, he will bring you in, and he'll give you the strength to face it as well, which is exactly what he did to Arjun. He gave him the strength to face his biggest problem by giving him the Bhagavad Gita. So, and after this Bhagavad Gita was spoken, the war began, and one of the most glorious acts in this battle is this scene where in one of the days of the battlefield, Krishna, who had vowed not to pick up a weapon, not to get involved directly. He was a chariot driver of Arjuna. But he decided, enough is enough. Bhishma was fighting so well. He was the greatest warrior in this battle. And Arjuna was not making his full effort because he loved his grandfather and didn't want to hurt him. So Krishna took up the wheel from the chariot and he went towards Bhishma, that I will kill you. And Bhishma stood there saying, yes, this is what I want to make you do. My desire was to see you in your ferocious form. And Krishna fulfilled that desire. He broke his own vow to fulfill the desire of his own devotee. So Bhishma is a devotee of Krishna. He recognized the Supreme Lord. He knew this is the Supreme Lord. And he had made a vow that I will make you pick up a weapon and come to kill me. I want to die at your hands. So, and he's waiting, yes. And Arjun, he said, no, my lord, you made a vow. You're going to break your vow. I promise I will fight. And apparently, it's said that Krishna was moving so fast, Arjun tried to grab him and he was dragged with Krishna for like meters and meters, right? And there was a huge sort of, what they call that, a trench made by Arjun when he was being dragged by Krishna in this form. And of course, Krishna, he didn't, he stopped. He listened to his devotee Arjun, said, okay, now you fight. I don't want any half-hearted fight between you and Bhishma. Do it properly. Kill him. So anyway, in due course, Ambika's vow, Amba's vow, was fulfilled when he took birth as Shikandi, as the sister, or was it the brother? Sister of Jashtadumna and Draupadi. And I think it was that, was it just for one day he could become a man or something like that? He entered the battle as Shakuni, not Shakuni, Shikandi.
No, he was like in the form of a woman.
Eunuch. Yeah.
And then Bhishma had vowed never to fight a woman. So that's why they put him in front of Arjuna.
Yes.
So it was a female person, but a male body in it. So
Eunuch,
his gender. So Bhishma Dev couldn't escape that.
Thank you.
I wonder what the current day thinking of transgender would make of all this. Anyway, he wouldn't fight.
They're making money.
They make a lot of noise. Yeah. I'm just waiting for a school to ask me a question on this. What's your view on transgender? I can give them the story of Bhishma and Shikandi.
Yeah, but that's not your view.
I don't have a view. It's too hard to understand.
Yeah, so Bhishma put his weapons down.
Bhishma put his weapons, and Arjun shot arrow after arrow after arrow in tears. These were the...
Prabhu, sorry to interrupt. Do you think this is Krishna's plan?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what is Krishna's plan? You mean? What is Krishna?
How Trikandi come in the form of the way the form came around.
Oh, I see.
Obviously, Bhishma Pita had to do what he had to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Krishna advised Arjun to use Shikandi the night before.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I remember now. Thank you.
Yeah. Because they were trying to work out how are we going to defeat this incredible person.
Rid of, Bhishma,
So eventually they did it. Whew. It was one heck of a fight. But he was also granted a boon by his father. When his father found out that he had sacrificed his own happiness for the sake of himself, Shantanu Maharaj, he blessed his boy that you will dictate when you die. you will control the timing of your death. That's quite, wow, that's quite a boon to be given. So he was on this bed of arrows for a long time, because he could control. There's a few stories on this bed of arrows. One is really interesting. Yeah, he said, "Can I have a pillow?" And I think Duryodhan went to go and get a
nice soft pillows.
pillow. But Arjun made a pillow of arrows and said, then Bhishma said, "Yes, this is suitable for Kshatriya." And another time he was thirsty, so Arjun shot an arrow into the ground, and Mother Ganga came and quenched his thirst. This is the picture. Krishna was very impressed with Bhishma. But there was one incident which I've heard it a few times. I've never read it anywhere, but I just heard it in lectures. When Yudhishthira asked the question from
this is when
Bhishma.
Yudhishthira is being advised by Bhishma.
He asked the question, didn't he? What are my duties of a human being or a king? And he was about to start answering, and there was a huge laughter
from the back.
From the back. So everybody's wondering, who's laughing? And it was Draupadi. So they asked Draupadi, "Why are you laughing?" So Draupadi said, "I'm laughing because who are you?" She was always frank. She didn't mince her words. "Who are you to advise on the duties of a Kshatriya or a king? You failed in yours to protect me." She didn't mince her words. And Bhishma said, "Yes, you're right. You're right. But at that time, when I was in the court of Dhritarashtra, when you were being insulted, I was eating their food. I was living off their earnings. And my thought process was corrupted because of that. But now, every single drop of blood has drained from my body. No blood of Hastinapur remains within me. And now I can advise on the duties of a Kshatriya." That's really interesting. And Draupadi accepted, yes, fair enough. So it's his departure. So we can read these two verses.
Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Patikshatam Kalaviram Yavat Idam Hinomniham Prashana Saruna Lochanulashan Mukham Bujodhyana Vatha Chaturbuja. May my Lord, who is four-handed and whose beautifully decorated lotus face, with eyes as red as the rising sun, is smiling, kindly await me at that moment when I quit this material body. Sutta Uvacha Krishna evam Bhagavati Manovadishti Rittabi Atmani Atmanam Aveshya Sonantaswasha Uparamat. Sutta Goswami said, thus Bhishma Dev merged himself in the super soul, Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with his mind, speech, sight, and actions, and thus became silent and his breathing stopped.
The perfect passing away. He was in front of Krishna. Krishna was blessing him. He was looking at Krishna, and he left his body when the sun is in the northern hemisphere. So truly amazing way of a great warrior, a great devotee of the Lord to depart. Bhishma Dev ki jai. So we can go to the stuti. Now, there's the Bhishma Stuti, which Karuna is going to chant. You can share your screen if you like, if it's easier for you.
Yes, Prabhu, please.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Please. Over to you. Thank you so much. And while we're just waiting, tonight we're going to chant the Vishnu Sahasranam because this is apparently the day that he spoke the Vishnu Sahasranam. He chanted it rather, yeah. So Shruti will be coming at 7 o'clock on the same Zoom channel and we'll chant that. Over to you, Karuna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Shri Bhishma Dev ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Bhishma uvacha. Iti mati rupaka sita vikrishna. Bhagavati sarvata pungave vibhumi. Swasukhamupagate क्वचिद्विहर्तुं प्रकृतिमुपेयुषियद्भव प्रवाह त्रिभुवनकमनं कमलावनं रविकरगौरवरं दधाने वपुरलककुलावृताननाब्जं विजयसखेरतिरस्तु मे नवद्या युधितुरगरजो विदुम्रवीश्वर कचललितश्रमवार्यलङ्कृतास्ये मम निशितशरे विधीयमान त्वचिविलसत्कवचे सुकृष्ण आत्मा सपदि सखिवचो निशम्य मध्ये निजपरयोर्बलयोरथं निवेश्य स्थितवती परसैनिकायुरक्ष्णा ऋतवती पार्थ सखेरति ममास्तु व्यवहितप्रीतना मुखं निरीक्ष्य स्वजनवधाद्विमुखस्य दोष बुद्ध्या कुमति महरदात्मविद्ययाय चरणरति परमस्य तस्य मेस्तु स्वनिगमपहाय मत्प्रतिज्ञां ऋतमधिकर्तुमवाप्लुतो रथस्था धृतरथचरणो भयाचलद्गुर् हरिवहन्तुं निभं गतोत्तरीय शितविशिखहतो विशीर्णदंश क्षतजपरिप्लुता हीनो मे प्रसभमभिससारमद्बधार्तं स भवतु मे भगवान् गति मुकुन्दा विजयरथकुतुम्भ आततोत्रे धृतहयरश्मिवितश्रिये शनीये भगवती रतिरस्तु मे मुमूर्षोर्यमिह निरीक्ष तागताः स्वरूपम् ललितगतिविलास वल्गुहास प्रणय निरीक्षण कल्पितो रोमाना कृतमनुकृतवत्य उन्मदाना प्रकृतिमगन् किल यस्य गोप वद्वा मुनिगण नृपवर्य संकुलेन्त सदसि युधिष्ठिरराजसूय एषा अर्हनामुपपेद ईक्षणीयो मम दृशि गोचर एष विरात्मा तमीमहमजं शरीरभाजां हृदि स्थितम् आत्मकल्पितानां प्रतिदृशमिव नैकधार्कमेकम् समाधिगतोऽस्मि विधूतभेद मोह भीष्मदेव की जय.
Yay, amazing. Wow. Thank you so much for singing the stuti. Fantastic. Any questions, any comments?
Just loved it. Thank
No,
you.
it's amazing. Yeah, it was really good. Really, really good. Surinder, anything you'd like to share?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat, everybody, Nitai Gaur, Haribol, Sri Nityananda Chandram, Patita Sharanadam, Gauradam Tam Bhajeham. Yes, really interesting about Bhishma Dev. In Mahabharata, I admire a few of the heroes. The supreme hero is our supreme personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And the Pandavas are the next heroes. There are few devotees of Lord Sri Krishna in Mahabharata. And then we have Draupadi Mata. She's our universal mother. And then, she, in Prema Vivarta, it explains that if one happens to be in a very troublesome situation, that trouble can be mitigated or overcome by two methods. One is full self-surrender, and second is humility. So we see in the Leela of Draupadi, she raised her arms when she was being disrobed, and full self-surrender, she prayed to Krishna, "Oh hey Gopijana Vallabha." And then Krishna responded, reciprocated. And in mood of humility, Draupadi, with humility and full self-surrender, and then she was saved from that troublesome situation. And here another hero is our Bhishma Dev. Yeah, Bhishma Dev is a great hero whom I admire a lot in the Mahabharata. And he was killed in the Mahabharata war by the arrows of Arjuna. And there is another one is Ghatokach, is another great hero I admire. And then we have Abhimanyu, is another great hero I admire. And Dronacharya as well. So yes, in Mahabharata we have these great heroes I admire, Prabhu. And with the Leela of Draupadi, we understand that it happened that when Duryodhana was visiting Indraprasth, he happened to fall down in a sort of a pond inside the palace. And then we are told like Draupadi loaf. And then Duryodhana decided in his mind that he will avenge this offense, sort of. So we have been warned, like even in practicing Krishna consciousness, we need to be aware where to laugh, where not to laugh. Just like in front of the deities, we are told not to laugh loudly. It is considered an offense to the deities. So in this way, even the act of laughter, we have to be careful and properly practice it in a Krishna conscious mood, observing the rules and regulations. So we learn from this lila that not to laugh at others. Another lila is like King Chitraketu. He laughed as when Lord Shiva had Parvati seated on his lap in a very intimate way. So Chitraketu laughed. And then Lord Shiva is very merciful, but Durga Devi, she cursed the Chitraketu to be born in the body of a demon. And then hence Chitraketu became Vritasura. Another one is in Gaura Lila. The slok in Prem Dham Deva Stotram is as follows. Sloka Ganga Vandanartha Digjiki Shubhashitam Vyachalan Kritadi Dosha Tarkitartha Dhushitam Dhvasta Yukti Rudha Buddhi Data Dhima Dhadharam Prema Dham Devam Evanomi Gaura Sundaram. So when Gauranga Mahaprabhu defeated the Digvijay Pandit, his students laughed at the Digvijay Pandit. And Gauranga Mahaprabhu, he calmed them down and told them not to laugh at the Digvijay Pandit. He's a great devotee. So in this way, the students of Gauranga Mahaprabhu were protected by Gauranga Mahaprabhu and they followed his advice. So we pray to Nitai Gaura Haribol to be protected always. And in today's great day about Bhishma Dev, we heard and we implore the blessing of Bhishma Dev and the Vaishnavas to continue our Krishna consciousness, to chant Sudhanam and practice Sudha Bhakti. Nitai Gaura Haribol Prabhu, thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing. Very good. I appreciate that. Nice realizations and nice of you to share. Anybody else? Okay, thank you so much. So Bhishma Dev ki jai.